Hello and welcome to the Ambiguous Blanket podcast. Today we are doing something a bit different. We're taking a break from our standard tech articles and jumping into our first interview episode. We have Alastair Railton on the show talking about directing his third short film, the writing, producing and directing process, and how he got started. So, do you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a bit about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Alastair Railton. I've just recently started my own film and media company based in Grantham, which is in the early stages at the minute, but I'm hoping as time goes on we're going to build ourselves up. And kind of what my company is all about is it's kind of to move away from that idea of like being a very London-centric film industry. Many people watching this might have found that they've gone down to London to try and find those opportunities, and you're competing with 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 applicants, and that's just for like a runner position.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. And so I think I'd applied for getting on for 75 jobs and low end in
Entry level.
Yeah, exactly. And it just wasn't happening. And somebody made the suggestion to me, why don't you just make it happen for yourself? And that's what I did. So I've started building something from the ground up, or at least trying to. I prefer to sort of recruit people who are kind of in the early stages, who kind of want that experience, want IMDb credits.
Fantastic.
Something that they can take forward to their...
people at the same, or around about the same level as you, and pull each other up.
Exactly. And mainly as well, I tend to recruit a lot of university students who are kind of who sort of want their runner, assistant camera, boom operator kind of roles, something that they can just get under their belts, and then I'll give them a reference for life. I'll say they've done great, they've done great, they've got a credit under their belts. And I because of the frustration I went through to try and get a job in the industry, and it
help people out, don't you?
Yeah, exactly.
You're like a directing father.
That's quite a nice analogy. I like
for
that.
The people in the film industry.
Yeah.
Take them under your wing and nurture them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's cool. I like that. Yeah. But yeah, so I've directed.
So you're directing.
Yes. Sorry, yes, I'm a director. I've directed 3 short films now, with another that I worked as an editor on, another that's upcoming that is I'm working as a producer and an editor, and another short that I'm being brought in as a director, with my own short ready to go, another one, and my first feature as well, which is a tale of the triumph of human spirit. So got big hopes for that one, preferably.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you kind of describe yourself as a writer, director, producer of films then?
Yeah. I mean, sometimes I've learned recently it's a little bit difficult to do the director, producer, writer all in one go. It's kind of it's a lot of work, and I think directing and producing, they really don't complement each other in the way you sort of think they would. I think producing is very kind of it's like logical thinking. It's more business orientated. It's the logistics and stuff like that.
The worst parts.
Yeah. The stuff. The
stuff you're fighting against as a director.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you spend your time fighting against yourself.
Yeah. Which it just creates all kinds of problems basically. Whereas like directing, you very much you have that creative scope, and you can sort of really go crazy. That's the bit I really love. That's the best bit. Yeah.
So we should probably give people a bit of context about how we know each other.
Of course.
And do you want to? I guess you can start the story and I'll chip in.
No, absolutely. Okay. So going back. Got to get this right. Was it 10? Is it 10 years?
It may have been. Whilst we were in secondary school, wasn't it?
So I met you a few months ago.
Yes. It's a much easier story.
Not as dramatic though. You can show your filmmaking prowess by
10 years ago. This is a few months ago.
Yeah.
So it would have been
But I'm actually thinking it might be more than that though, because I think I met you when we were year 7.
The first
time.
The first year of secondary school.
Yeah.
Then. I guess so. And then that was 5 years at secondary school, and then 2 years at college or whatever, and then 3 years at uni.
Wow.
And then the 4 years since uni. So
yeah, a long time.
10 plus years ago.
yeah.
So we met through your friend and my friend, a mutual friend, some might say. And we first started trying to do stuff together in a band, didn't we?
Very different concepts. Yeah. We were
What were you playing?
Do you want to guess?
You were drums.
Yeah.
Well, you kind of know that, but take a guess.
I say you guitar, singer.
No.
Bass?
Yeah, I did bass for a while.
I think you are very tall. I don't know why it is, but tall people love the bass.
The sort of, no, it sort of fits, doesn't it? You have a physique that sort of fits certain instruments, Yeah, but no, before that I was on the keyboard, so...
Oh, the keyboard, wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So
Could you play Jump by Van Halen?
No,
Classic.
That was the thing with...
only.
That was the thing with the band, though. We didn't really play much of anything.
No, it was very much just kind of like...
I don't know whether you would class it as a band. It was more of just a collection of people trying to do something whilst we were like in year 8 of school or something.
You could see it as it was just, getting your creative flair on the go towards the filming, isn't it?
Well, maybe we didn't know like exactly what we wanted to do at that stage, but we wanted to do something. So I guess that was kind of true for me. I didn't realise what I wanted to do until like late on, like halfway through uni, really. So we met at secondary school, and then we kind of lost contact when we went to uni. Where did you go to uni?
I was at Leeds Met.
Leeds.
It was great uni, great city. And if you want to sort of truly enjoy the social life, I mean, it was just
so that's
one of those
like
places.
That's the opposite to my uni experience then.
Oh really?
Because I went to Stafford University, which not many people have heard of, but there was kind of one nightclub in that town.
Right,
it's the same size place as Grantham, I guess.
Right, I see.
But less nightclubs.
Yeah.
And the SU closed on a Saturday night at about 10 o'clock.
Wow.
So it might have been a bit of a contrast to to your Leeds experience.
Same.
So my uni was really good as well.
Yeah.
But I was near London, so
so you were sort of right.
I mean, it was in Hatfield, which is worse than Grantham, but it had a great uni establishment there. It's a great club there. And then you'd go off to like was it St Albans?
Yeah.
I can't remember the other place. Down in London.
Yeah.
So did you want to leave uni at the end, or did you want to stay another year? I wanted to stay again.
Yeah, I think. I think there's parts of you that kind of wants to stay, isn't there? And other parts that kind of you sort of want to go. I mean, I love the amount of people I met through uni and sort of the social life. That was brilliant.
But what did you do at uni, sorry?
International relations. Very unrelated to what I'm trying to do now. But it was kind of one of those degrees that you sort of like, what shall I pick? So I can just go to uni. It's international relations, I think of myself as international. I'll go for that, why not? But no, I think I was very much kind of ready to go from like an ambition point of view, I think. I think I kind of had enough of the course and stuff like that, but God, no, there's still, I mean, even now, I still miss, like, the social side. We're having a house party, come over, why not, the same kind of thing.
Yeah, but I did 3D animation, so I really enjoyed the actual course as well.
Perfect,
Obviously it was creative, so and not only did I want to stay doing creative stuff, but the social side as well. But then I decided to stay an extra year, not at uni, and oh my god, it was awful. This is not the same in a town that's like hardly anything in it. All the mates are gone. It's rubbish. But So, do you find your short films and your business somehow connect together, or?
Yeah.
Because obviously you said you got your short film side, and your business side.
Yeah.
I mean, is your short films more hobby side, or do you want to try and kind of integrate them together in some way?
I think in the long run, sort of like any sort of, I guess you call them corporate films that I do. They tend to be much more like charity focused, so or working with like public sector businesses. Usually because of the subject matter that's being tackled. If I feel it's doing some kind of good to society and contributing, then that's kind of what I really like to do. The films, I mean, especially the stuff I've written, I really like to sort of tackle sort of like complex, multi-layered stories that perhaps also have like a real world element to them as well.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's really sort of.
I'm all about those films that make you think.
Yeah,
try and look at, I suppose, society in a kind of different way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Talk about those kind of problems and stuff.
I think it's sometimes to kind of capture the majority of your audience, because I mean you can never please anybody, but it's so difficult to do, But I'd say that the sort of the films themselves are they're kind of a commentary of modern day social issues, but that address all areas. Like I really try as best as I can to remain neutral in terms of any kind of opinionated subjects, but I provide kind of like the alternate perspective on something that might be considered populist as like a movement. So
you don't want it to be a kind of telling people this is how you should think.
Yeah, exactly.
You just want to, I guess, give people the thoughts of each side. Yeah,
it's kind of to walk away from the film afterwards and sort of think that was interesting.
Do you want them to make their kind of own interpretation?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to try and make it too obvious what it's meant to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I kind of get the impression that audience members quite like that trust. I think with filmmakers.
Yeah, and I'd love to do it where you'd make a short film and then see what people.
Yeah, exactly.
The different like how people's opinions and the way they've grown up and stuff, how they see the film and stuff. Like if you leave it a bit open and stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I guess we've jumped a bit from your.
I thought when I said, oh crap! I bet I've jumped too far now.
So how did you get from that uni course that's kind of completely different to? Although I can see it helping in directing, but how did you get from there to making your first short film, or what was the first step?
So I think like all of us millennials really, I think we kind of got to that point where. I got to that point where I left uni and it was like, right, what do I do now? I have no idea what I'm going to do. And you kind of you feel like you want to do something that kind of has purpose, has meaning. I mean, we all say it, and at that time you kind of don't really know what you mean, but you feel like you do. So like every kind of person of our generation, I thought, well, you know what, I'm going to work for a year in a job, and then I'm going to go backpacking, because it's
the millennial thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah, so I went sort of Southeast Asia, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, Laos, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia.
Wow,
did a bit of that, and then the Philippines and Indonesia. Great, loved it. 13 months of just kind of living day by day. Which is like a kind of bliss in a way, because you never have to plan. It's very spontaneous.
I did 2 months in New Zealand, so I read about how it's quite good to travel because it encourages your brain to have to like reach into other parts of you that you don't usually activate when you get really like used to an area and stuff. So that's quite cool that you went travelling. So like it opens and broadens your horizons.
Yeah, because I mean it's quite easy to sort of if you get kind of too stuck in something, you sort of your mind becomes quite stagnant, and it's kind of like you say, like going travelling is kind of, it does bring something new to the table. That kind of gets you thinking in a different way.
And
I think that was great. That was kind of a real highlight for me. So I mean, I did that and loved it, and then I came back, and that was when the real problems start. It's
like,
kind of
no.
reality kicks in, you know, and to live kind of for 13 months day by day, to then go to living, right, I'm broke, and I now have to plan for the future, and that I sort of had quite a tough. I think it ended up being like 9 months where I was kind of like trying to find work and not feeling happy. I got quite down about it. And
was that not known? Were you trying to find work in video at all?
Trying
at that stage, or?
But that was kind of in that phase of I feel like I want to do that. London's where everyone goes, so I was applying, and it was kind of rejection after rejection. It's kind of, it gets you down. So I did a couple of like other jobs in Grantham, hometown, and it was kind of a stroke of luck, really. An old friend of mine from school came up to me and he said he'd written this script, and he was a bit apprehensive about directing it himself. Would I like to come on as like a co-director sort of position? I kind of read his script and I thought, yeah, absolutely. This is a real.
What made
thing.
him come to you then? Like
we sort of we'd always discussed before. So I'd always liked to write stories when I was younger.
Yeah.
So me and him always used to have a bit of a back and forth about I've wrote this story recently. I've had these ideas.
Cool. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where that
connection
came in. And so and we just kind of went full steam ahead with it and sort of made this. This film called Through Emerald Eyes, and it was kind of in that moment, when you sort of think, that's it, that's what I want to do. I loved every second of it, and I don't know if it's going to sound a bit too cliche, but I felt when I was on set, I felt very alive, like after having kind of had 9 months of being quite low and sort of like, just trudging along with life, to then suddenly go up like this, and it's like, yes.
Yeah.
And I loved that feeling, and I wanted to kind of keep that feeling going, it was... It was like something I wanted to maintain constantly. So we made that film, and obviously it had its problems, as your first film's always going to have, and then just after that, then I wrote, whilst that one was in post production, I wrote Between the Divide, which was my next one, which is like a psychological horror, and sort of then made that about 6 months after Through Emerald Eyes, sent that off to the festival circuit, did great, it was credit to everyone who was involved, because it really, was received kind of fantastically, in my opinion. And then I wrote Voice of Belief, and that's kind of the most recent one we've just finished working on, and that's now in the editing suite at the minute. So
nice.
and it's looking very good.
Wow.
Good.
How did you come about finding people to work on these short films?
Yeah. So on the first one, I used a website called it was Film and TV Pro back then, and it's now become Mandy Crew, I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's kind of like a platform for kind of posting opportunities, because I mean, when you're at these stages and you really want to make a film, but you're not going to have the funding to be paying top end director of photographers and sound recordists and makeup artists. So you kind of want to recruit people who are at the same level as you, who are looking for opportunities that they can build their portfolio. And this website Mandy Crew kind of has like an opportunities section, which kind of advertises low-paid, expenses only, or unpaid roles. And I remember thinking, I was overwhelmed of how many people are willing to do work for expenses only. And kind of really says something about how competitive the industry is.
But then obviously, I think because I was on set with you for the last film. I saw that you were trying to make it as beneficial for all of those people as possible. So you kind of seemed like you felt it was your duty as a director and the person that was pulling those people in to actually send them away with something that they could take from it. And there is generally something that anyone can take from a set, but I felt like you were trying to be quite conscious of actually making sure that was the case. Yeah,
I think it was kind of, because I always hate for somebody to be on one of my sets and sort of walk away and think, God, that was a waste of time. I sat round, or I just sat there and made the coffee. I mean, what you're really gaining out of that? You want hands-on experience. You want to be in the thick of it. And I mean, it's difficult sometimes because you do have to sort of put a certain amount of trust in people who potentially might not have the capacity to do it.
Yeah.
But if you give the opportunity, if you give that moment of trust, then that's it. They'll jump on it and they'll try and do everything they can to kind of, sort of learn as much as they can, to sort of work with kind of people who have more experience and sort of, I can take that away and that's great. This is great learning for me, and it's kind of, I like I said, I would have hated if anybody who's worked on any one of my films has ever walked away and thought, I didn't get anything out of that. Yeah.
Because I think as well we have both, like me and Ant and you, have done it kind of a different way, I guess, because you're quite focused on being a director and also writing and getting the short films out there kind of thing. Yeah. Whereas we came together, I think, at the start with working on an idea for a film. Was that the first thing that we were doing?
Yeah.
And then we kind of made... But then even before that, were we writing a short film that's...
No, that was after. A little bit after.
Yeah, I think then we made kind of a little short film without much kind of knowledge of what we were doing.
Yeah.
Together to start off with, and then we decided that we wanted to write and make a kind of a proper short film. But then things have kind of got on the back burner with that, and we've gone a different route. And then also you bringing in other people as a kind of crew situation is slightly different to our way of working as well, because we've kind of tried to refine the two of us kind of thing, whereas you're trying to build a team and refine that each time. So they're kind of two parallel ways of going at it.
Absolutely.
But so I think it was interesting for me as well to see those two. Well, there's hundreds of different ways that people can do anything in the industry. But it's interesting to see that the kind of director route, and I think we're at the moment we're trying to find someone to get on board with the main area that we, I think, find challenging with making a short film, which is the writing kind of stage.
Right, yeah.
So, and I think that's partly why we haven't got anything kind of off the ground in the same way as your short film way. We've obviously concentrated on like YouTube channel and music sessions and things like that. So we're thinking about building out in terms of that, but then we're quite comfortable. We go by the kind of director DP kind of relationship on set, and then pre-production is a completely different thing because we're both trying to do like as much as we can each, I guess. But how's that work for you? How's the pre-production side of things look? Because you've got a defined director role on set, but how's pre-production look for you?
I mean, pre-production for me is very well, specifically the director part. If we take the producer element out of what we're talking about. Okay, so the director element, really, for me, it was all about recruitment. So I wanted people who were gonna, work on something that, that they could sort of share their vision. And I sort of love that collaborative element. And I think a lot of people do talk about it, but I think if you kind of put trust in everyone to collaborate into something, you kind of get the best results. So I kind of was recruiting people based on, who I felt was going to bring or have the confidence to bring their own ideas to the table. Because it's very easy, I think, to fall into the director dictator sort of camp if you're not careful. But I think pre-production as well, it was very much just from a directorial point of view. It's going through the script. It's generating kind of a shot list that's going to tell the story visually, and translating that from writing on a page into kind of how is it going to look on a camera kind of thing. and working with the actors. So I Skype called actors on all of the films I've worked on, and you run through acting exercises with them, kind of basically to try and get them to a point where they are in the mind of their character. And it sounds a bit creepy, I know, but it's kind of like so for example, for my most recent film, two very talented actors I work with, Simon Crudgington and Astrid Bellamy, who played the two characters of Jason and Ellen. And I kind of said to them, the reason I do these Skype calls is not so that we can just go through the script line by line. We sort of run like sort of mock therapy sessions where you kind of like, so imagine Jason is sat on the psychologist's chair, and the psychologist is asking him questions, and you respond as Jason.
Yeah.
Or
Good idea.
Yeah. And like with Astrid, it was her character's kind of like a former soldier, and I was sort of imagine a scenario where you're talking to one of your fellow soldiers just before you're about to go out on a dangerous patrol and sharing your thoughts and feelings. Essentially to get to a point where they are responding to each other on set, not as Simon Crudgington and Astrid Bellamy, but as Jason and Ellen, and they respond.
And method actors kind of thing.
Exactly. I think that's great, and they got it. They sort of, and it really resonates in their performances. And I was so chuffed that it went that way, really. Yeah.
So did you bring them together to see the chemistry between the two?
Yes,
first?
I mean that was a big one as well. So
did you do that before Skyping? Or?
No, I mean the first time I actually met them in person was actually on the film set. So there was a lot of kind of like right, okay, now we're all sort of meeting together, and it's kind of like, okay, yeah, right, let's just rehearse and see what happens.
I did see you do a lot of work with them on the first night of the shoot as well. I guess that was your kind of pre-production whilst we were setting the camera and everything.
Exactly.
And I think that was probably one of the hardest scenes as well
it was,
that we decided to do. Was there a thinking behind that, like get that out the way first? Or?
It was kind of I think because that scene in particular, it was kind of very dialogue heavy, but it was kind of even the simple things like just how to keep a scene that's very dialogue heavy visually interactive, because there is a danger sometimes that you can lose your audience in those scenes if you're not careful. I mean, a lot of it comes down to editing. You have to sometimes be quite ruthless with your cutting, and that's always quite difficult, I think, especially when you've directed it as well. I think it's the biggest challenge I have. But yeah, I mean, it was kind of blocking that scene was, even something as simple as somebody going over to a unit and picking up a file became such a complicated process to just try and make it a bit more visually stimulating. So yeah, I think you're right. That was one of the most challenging scenes.
I guess as well, it was like a point of reference for the actors for the rest of the film. Now that they'd had that experience in that scene, then they could bring that through. I guess because in an ideal world, you might have met up with them first, and you might have ran through some things first. So in a way, it kind of acted as that, or it looked like it was acting partly as that to me as well.
No, absolutely.
But they were incredible actors, just on that in that. Kind of the first take as well. What they managed to do with that, like you said, it was a basic kind of scene. But then obviously it's partly their job as well to carry the interest in addition to the shots. But
I think that's kind of really great. I think to see as a director is kind of when your actors are kind of they're so in that place that, as you say, when you're kind of watching on the sidelines and you've got your fingers crossed, and it's kind of like, go on, like show them all what you can do, sort of thing, and they do, and it's like, it's just like, yes, it's great. It's great feeling. Yeah.
So what kind of motivates you to keep creating, I guess, time after time?
Yeah, I think I just when you kind of have like a real passion. Again, it's going to sound cliche, but you've got a passion for storytelling, and it's kind of like, yes, tell a great story, and just hope that people sort of like find a connection with it. And I just love that. I love being able to share kind of these kind of things with everyone, and sometimes when it comes to writing as well, I'll just sit there and think, right, that's it, I've got an idea, go for it, and I kind of have to sort of almost write it in one go, otherwise I lose the flow, sort of thing.
So I guess that goes on to think about how does that, all of the kind of production process look to you, because you said doing things, kind of writing things really quickly, and obviously you said 6 months between your first film and your second film, so so it seems like you're doing things quite quickly as well.
Yeah, I think as well it's kind of like trying to keep that feeling. So, when I was kind of saying how much I've got a buzz of being on set.
Yeah.
It's trying to capture that feeling every single time, and you kind of, you might have found this the other day. You finish off sets when it's been all go, and you do suffer some kind of weird withdrawal thing. I don't even know what you just feel a bit kind of like almost a bit lost. Like, what do I do now?
Yeah.
That was kind of like.
I've definitely felt that in the past. I think it's such a weird feeling on set or filming anything. It's kind of a weird buzz that you get from it. I guess that's more in the past for me. Now I've kind of grown to. I like the idea of in pre-production. I'm really excited to do the pre-production, and then I get a bit bored of the pre-production, but then it's time to film, so that's okay. And then by the end of the filming, you get excited about editing. So then you're kind of you're ready to get there. So you're always so I like doing the whole thing, because obviously there's different paths that you can take as to whether you want to just direct or just edit or just DP or whatever. But I kind of like the idea of doing each section, and you never get bored as much in that. But I think that's quite an interesting thing, of that there is some kind of weird come down period after you shoot almost.
It is strange, but I think that's why it is so great to be involved in all the different stages as well, because you see it all coming together. And especially that jump, I think, from pre-production to production is really interesting, because then it's kind of like, in pre-production it's still very much kind of like, it's a dream, this is how I'd like it to look, but it's not until you see it all happening in front of you that you get that real kind of like, oh, that's good. And then post-production's always fun, because then you get to kind of watch it all afterwards and put it together like a jigsaw puzzle. It's great,
and I think it's a good sign if you're excited about what you've just shot to be able to edit. I think that's also been a bit of a weird experience for me, because most of the time I'm shooting and then editing like my own stuff or our stuff. If we've planned something, then it'll be our job to edit it as well. So leaving set on that last day, you looking forward to kind of getting into the edit, and I'm kind of questioning like how because I'm not gonna get my teeth into that edit. So that's also a weird thing that I'm not sure. Like I like the thought of that kind of DPing stuff, but also it's nice when it's your baby kind of thing, I guess, and you can decide what happens into it. So
I think it's a challenge I reckon quite a lot of DOPs have who don't edit their own work, is they always want the stuff that they worked the most on to end up in the final cut. But you just have to relinquish that control and just hope that you're working with an editor who sort of knows what he's doing and will do it justice. And
and then sometimes come back in to colour it afterwards. Some DPs do. So, but are you at any stage thinking of relinquishing the control of editing then? Is that something on the horizon, do you think?
It's difficult. It's really difficult to say. I think for stuff, for example, that I don't that I haven't written myself, I think that's kind of fair game. Then I think that should go to an external editor. I'm there to kind of tell the story in production, and then the editor is going to tie it all up in a post-production sense.
Yeah, with your help, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes you do need that fresh pair of eyes kind of to be sometimes a bit ruthless, and sometimes to shape it into something that's great.
Yeah.
But for stuff I've written, I really struggle to kind of to let go of that, and I think that just boils down to, because when I'm writing, I visualize the scenes, and I really know how
you want it exactly.
Yes, and I think that's kind of the whole. Yeah, I think that's quite sort of difficult to let go of that when you have it so crystal clear in your mind and stuff. So
how do you feel about that then with having a DP as well then, because we're quite used to, a lot of people in the industry or in this level of the industry, I guess, are quite used to filming and editing something like corporate commercial jobs and stuff themselves, and not working in a kind of crew environment. So then we're both kind of used to shooting and editing our own stuff. So then when you come to have a DP, how's that go as well?
It's kind of
because some directors as well are quite visual, and some aren't so much. So I guess, but you're quite visual as well, aren't you? So
I think with the DOP I've worked with the most, Adam Hudson, it's kind of our kind of working relationship is very much kind of, I'll give him the overview of what it is I'd really like to capture in that scene. Stuff like the mood, who perhaps has the power in that specific scene, who deserves more space on screen. Is it a close-up, is it a wide shot, is it a mid-shot, stuff like that. And vague guidance on stuff like lighting, for example. And then what I kind of like the idea is that he sort of sits there and says, okay, I see what you're saying, and then he goes away, adds his own spin on it, and while still keeping the integrity of what I've said I'd really like from the scene intact, but adding so many more layers on top of it of his own style to make it look great. I think to work with a DOP who kind of has that kind of mentality is the perfect combination, because I do know some DOPs need lots of guidance from the director, and that can be sometimes difficult when, as a director, you're trying to work with actors as well, and then make sure that you're giving everyone the time they need. And then you get some DOPs who kind of get really rogue and kind of like just do their own thing completely, which, sometimes that can be really good, but I think there does have to be that balance there.
Yes,
yeah, because I always love the planning side of a DP's role as well, like lighting diagrams and things like that, and planning out how to do things at that level. And I guess that's something that we work on, because we usually have the control of a project right from the start. Then it's something that we can both be working on at the same time, and because it's like a close director DP kind of relationship, then we're I guess able to kind of work on the shot list and simultaneously work on like lighting plans and stuff like that. So it's integral, whereas you potentially get Adam in to like a later stage than if you were like, we potentially write at the same stage as well. So everything's happening all in one core thing. But so it's interesting and I guess you found it interesting as well to work with different people and see how things work.
Absolutely, sort of see different people's styles, because it's always great to work with a variety of people, just because somebody might bring something to the table that you never thought about, and it's like, absolutely, let's go for it. That sounds great. I didn't think of that. So that's it.
Do you have another film on the cards to start doing, or is it still heavy just on the one you're editing at the moment?
I've got this short film that is ready to go, the title of which is very topical. It's Fake News will be the title. And that's a short.
Shorter than this last one?
I'd say maybe about equal length, I think. It's about half an hour I'm aiming for. And that's kind of written, ready to go. But it's kind of something that I'd really like to try. I'd love to just be able to work with like even just a fraction of a budget. So mainly just to kind of give us access to better locations, to maybe bring in extra equipment if we need it. I think the main thing as well, and it's I guess something you kind of forget as well, but is actually paying people for their time and effort. You kind of want, to get paid doing something you love is the dream. Everyone wants to do that. And if I could do that, I would, for everyone who's worked on my sets.
So you're looking to find that, use this film that you've just filmed to find that money somewhere then?
Sort of like in conjunction with Between the Divide as well. Between the Divide and Voice of Belief being kind of films I've solely directed, I would put both of those forward and sort of say, okay, look, this is what I could do on a minimal budget. Give me just a little bit of a budget and I'll make you something great. Basically, that's kind of what I really like to go for. So.
What would you advice would you give for someone wanting to get into directing, filmmaking, anything like that, from obviously your experiences?
I mean, there are so many barriers to kind of getting into to filmmaking, and I think there are some people who kind of look at filmmaking and might sort of see a goal at the top of the mountain, but they forget that they've got to make the climb, and that's the most difficult thing to kind of accept, because the climb is tough and it's challenging, and it has lots of boulders that are going to knock you back down on you as you climb. But I think really from a director point of view, I mean, a practical piece of advice would be I'd always recommend writing your own stuff, because it's very hard to get into directing without any kind of credits. And it doesn't have to be kind of fancy stuff. It doesn't have to be stuff that needs a lot of budget, a lot of cast. Just sometimes maybe even go for it with a phone. I mean, some phones kind of record on really decent quality now anyway. Just make 5-minute shorts, start a bit of playing around, really kind of hone in on your skill, find out what you like, and then just go from there. And I think, and speaking from experience as well, there is always that voice in your head that kind of sort of is there, and it's like, should you really be doing this? Can you do it? Because I don't think you can do it. I think there are too many challenges. Oh, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Or that's going to be so difficult. And that was one of my biggest challenges. And the way eventually, because it took time and it took kind of sort of reinforcing belief in myself after kind of having successes. But after time, that voice, whenever it comes up, you just gradually learn to very politely and very kindly tell it to fuck off, basically.
Piss off.
Yeah, and when you get to that point, then that self-doubt kind of flows away, and then you have confidence in yourself, and then that's it. And once you've got the confidence, then you'll find it very quickly starts rolling.
The more uncomfortable situations you put yourself in,
yes,
and you realise it's not as bad as you think.
Exactly.
The more you grow, don't you?
Exactly.
And then confidence comes. And,
Yep.
I think it's so much better if you kind of believe yourself when you say that. If you don't let yourself be like overtaken by someone else saying that no, I see it happening like this, so maybe we should do that. And then if you don't have the confidence to say no, my idea is going to work, let's just do it. And especially as a director, because everyone's coming to you to ask you all those questions, and you've got to have your definitive idea. But I've found that in the stuff that I've done as well, when someone's trying to say no, that I think we should do it like this, and then after a few times when you cave and let someone do that, and then it doesn't go all that well, then you think, well, my idea probably would have worked, so next time I'm going to do my idea, and if it doesn't work, then you just figure it out. But but it's tended to work for me, I like that that thing. And also, like you said, just getting on and doing something, because that's going to be even if you make like 10 terrible 5-minute shorts, your 11th may be good, and you learn so much more than if you don't do anything. And the chances are you won't make 10 bad shorts, I don't think, because there's going to be something that's good that you can then take on to the next one.
Everything is learning, so And as long as you're always learning with every film that you do, it's never a waste of time. Even if you kind of play it back afterwards and you think, God, that was terrible. But ask yourself, why was it terrible? What went wrong? Okay, so this didn't work out. Maybe the cinematography wasn't creative enough. Maybe the acting, you didn't spend as much time with your actors, and you sort of, when you should have really been saying, in that moment, bring more emotion to that section. And maybe it could just be something as simple as, the lighting wasn't very good, or you picked the wrong days to do it, or even something as simple as on-set chemistry. Sometimes if the on-set chemistry doesn't work, then it's sometimes difficult to do, but you just have to go with a clean slate, bring a new set of people in, keep it fresh. People are always willing to help out. And I think that's,
I have heard that kind of quote before about people making a film is so hard to make, the amount of things that are kind of in your way to stop you. So having as many, like if a film turns out like rubbish, like a big feature film kind of thing, it's not always like that the script was bad or anything, or that the cinematography was bad. It's like that there's so many variables in that you've got to kind of try and pull all together to make work. And I heard this is in a video that we did recently, I mentioned this as well, but I think it's so kind of true that I heard a quote that says that the director's job is to manage the tone throughout the whole film. And I think that that's really kind of relevant, because you don't necessarily, there's not a specific, I think that's the most important thing that a director does, manages the tone of everything. Like you said about the cinematography, you've got to let someone have their own thing, but you've got to make sure it still fits within your core thing that you've made. And especially as you've written it as well, you've got that idea, the visualization of that. So it's all got to, everything, set design, makeup, all things, wardrobe as well, has to all fit together, and it's your job to manage all of that into one thing, which is a difficult job when you think about it as well, all those things coming together,
absolutely,
and pulling something out of essentially nothing as well, pulling everyone together in a room to make something. But
it is kind of like that sort of metaphorical again, but to sort of, like you say, you're as a director, you're sort of working within a picture frame, basically. And to kind of, especially, I think it's the only danger I would ever say with collaboration, because it's 9 times out of 10 it's always a positive thing, but you just have to make sure that people, like you were saying, that they don't stray outside of the borders, because if you give too much free rein, then everyone sort of goes, it goes off in all different directions. They're drawing out of the lines, and it's kind of, as a director, you kind of got to keep them all. That's great. You can walk all the way up to here, but let's keep it here within these regions, basically.
Do you want to say your box analogy?
Or I can say check out our interview that we do with ourselves. We talk about a box analogy where you've got your personal box and you want to come out of the box, but you don't want to come out of the second box, which is the morality and legal box.
Okay,
So if you go out of there, you're doing illegal stuff, immoral things. And then the director is the third box that's in between those two boxes, which, depending on your confidence, is how wide that box is. Get freedom, and then you stop them, kind of thing.
Kind of if you collaborate with someone on a regular basis, you know how far they can go. You can allow that a bit more trust. But I think
you step in, kind of thing.
But like you said, you need that frame that they have to kind of work within. But I think that's really interesting. So if we're finishing up now, what would you kind of leave people on to get them excited for the film, and well, I guess it's going to festivals and that, so it won't be on the internet straight away. But
which is unfortunate, because obviously I'd love to share it with as many people as I could, but so we'll be doing the festival circuit for a year, and I'm aiming to have post-production wrapped up by September. I think that realistically that's when it will be. But there will be a premiere, Definitely will be a premiere. We're going to make a real big thing out of it, and it will be in the sort of filming location town. So it will be in Grantham. Probably aiming to be at the new cinema that's opening up there. Sort of might see if we can have a screening, invite kind of crowds. So to anybody watching, if you're interested in attending, you are more than welcome to come along and become part of this growing network in the East Midlands. So,
Excellent.
Cool.
Well, thanks for your time.
Yeah.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for listening to this different episode of the Ambiguous Blanket podcast. We'd love to know what you think of this new format, and we'd really like to do more of these interviews in the future. Let us know if there's anyone that you'd like to appear on our show, and don't forget to leave reviews for the podcast and find us on Instagram, and let's have a chat. See you in a bit.